Of course, we're going to give you an update on the artifacts and what we've been up to. We'll talk about the purpose of this session and the purpose of the maturity model. We'll then go into together mode, hopefully, and do a shout out and do picture time so we can all see your lovely faces and get you involved in our session, and then we'll go switch to how you can contribute and support the maturity model, and then go to the main event. If we could go to the next slide, you can join us every month.
Do that. I'll get there when I can.
Oh, okay. So join us every month. At some point, there will be a link to the to aks.ms mm4 m365/invite, so you can download a reoccurring calendar series and not forget about our sessions. So that'd be great, and thank you for those that have come today. Can we move to the next slide, the approach and articles on Microsoft Docs?
I'm really trying.
No worries.
Disappearing on me. I'm seeing that you're sharing and I'm sharing, which of course makes no sense.
There's definitely some gremlins, isn't there?
Yeah.
Right.
I'll keep talking. We'll get there.
I will keep talking. So in terms of the approach and the articles, so this maturity model, the purpose of the maturity model for Microsoft 365 is to help organizations and help us and you talk to key decision makers about what the purpose of Microsoft 365 is. We've got common competencies which all businesses need to be able to do, and depending on the competency, there'll be some areas which your business will need to focus more than others. But the aim of it is to be able to kind of help you come up with the benefits, the reasons why we should improve the likes of collaboration, communication, cognitive business, and so that we're able to bring all of us up to a better level. We can work on interesting projects. We can help our businesses be more successful and help drive to be better and improve our maturity in these areas. And of course, it's a community effort. So we want people, we'd love to get involved and help us inform us of things which are working well and not working well with the maturity model, where we can improve, things we've missed out on. So we'd love you to help us and get involved in that side. So recently we've added cognitive business competency, and now we sort of been talking about Copilot because we realized that some of these competencies, we've been doing this for a few years now, that they need to be updated with the changes, and Copilot is going to be a big change and a big shift for us all. So this seemed like a good place to start that conversation. So moving to the slide with the maturity model, the maturity levels. So the maturity model has 5 different levels, starting at level 100 to the level 500, which is kind of the nirvana. The level 100 is that initial default state. So that is generally the state if you've done nothing around that competency. And then depending on that competency, particularly with Microsoft 365, there'll be certain things which kind of Microsoft are already doing for us to help us maybe get to a level past 100. But the idea of level 100 is sort of the initial state. It's ad hoc, it's reactive, it's uncontrolled, it's chaotic. It's a little bit like this presentation this time. And then moving to level 200, where it's becoming more managed. We're getting some routine. We're still firefighting, but we're sort of starting to understand the challenges, and we can then use that knowledge and that understanding to get to level 300, where it's defined and we've got things documented, they're planned, they're controlled, they're not, we're not having to react so much because it's been more thought about. Level 400 is this predictable level where we're starting to measure, we're starting to see and test things out, test and measure we're using to make things better. And then level 500, which is that sort of nirvana, we're best of breed, we're optimizing. The competency is optimal. It's being improved. It's being automated. It's really helping drive that business forward. Okay, and then we're now going to switch over to PnP Picture Time. So we're going to aim to turn on together mode, and for those who'd like to be involved, we'd love you to be involved. If you could switch your cameras on. And shall I'm quite happy to, if I can. Oh God, can I do? No, I can't even switch. Oh, here we go. So it might be, if I switch on together mode, I can record this. So we'll put that in here. Let me just switch to video.
We have way more people here than we have showing, but that's okay. If you're shy, don't show your face. But we love to see all your faces on these.
We'd love to, definitely.
This is a PnP thing. We want to make sure everybody knows that they're a part of this.
Do you think my together mode is working or not working?
Yes, I see it up in the corner.
I see it.
Okay, it's not working on mine. Teams is having a moment.
Well,
today.
let's just pretend we took a picture, shall we?
I can grab it real quick, guys.
Perfect.
Give me just a
Thanks,
minute.
Sharon.
I'll grab it.
This is the important thing, right?
Yeah.
Yep. Give me 1 second.
Thank you all for your patience.
Normal service may resume if Teams allows us.
All right. I at least got a screenshot.
All right.
Thank you.
We're moving
Perfect,
on.
Right. So, thank you. Is the sharing back on again, or
I
the
haven't
presentation back
stopped sharing, so
okay, cool. All right, perfect. So, moving to the discussion, we'd love you to get involved and contribute in 2023. And you can get involved by reacting when you want to speak. Please come off mute, share your video so we can see you. If you would just rather chat and suggest things in the background, that's absolutely fantastic. However you would like to kind of get involved, so click on the chat and let us know your thoughts and ideas in there, and we'll aim to monitor that throughout this session. So as we said, this is a community effort, and we'd love to get you involved. So there are different ways of getting involved. We'd love to, if you had a case study about how you've used the maturity model or particular aspects or a competency, we'd love you to come, present a case study for us. You can contribute on GitHub. There's various discussions always going on, but you can submit pull requests and create issues around the content that's out there. So this is your maturity model to help us, and so please get involved. As well, just socializing the content, anything that you found useful, anything which you think we should be talking about, or you think we should, maybe there's an issue with some of the articles and we've missed something out. It'd be great to hear your thoughts. There's a couple of links at the bottom. So there's a link to running a maturity model for Microsoft 365 workshop, and then all the recordings from the sessions. I think we're up to date now. Are available on that link and on YouTube as well. So yeah, we thank you for being here. Okay.
I've been at 3 different conferences in the last month, and it's been very gratifying to hear people talking about the maturity model in many different contexts. So that's that socialized content idea. I mean, the goal here is to give people a common way to talk about things and sort of frame things up about how you can get better at using the platform and increase your capabilities. So all of these conversations. You know, Agnes Molnar actually did a whole session on search in at the Collab Summit in Dusseldorf, and it was all about the maturity model for search. So it's really cool when we see this out there in the wild. It's very gratifying.
Super cool. Yeah, definitely. So this is our so moving on to upcoming topics. So today we're talking about maturity in the age of Copilot. The guest speakers, well, there isn't a guest speaker, it's all of us with our points of view. We're going to be taking a break for a couple of months, so we hope you have great summer breaks and take some time to decompress and wind down and enjoy the summer. Hopefully it all stays sunny in the UK. It's currently pouring down with rain at the moment, but we'll be back on September the 19th talking about accessibility. And we will come up with a guest speaker for that as well. So moving on to the next session, as I said, it's going to be September the 19th. There is this community session is part of the PnP Microsoft PnP community, and there are a number of hands-on training sessions. So if it's something that you're not really sure about writing community docs, or you want to improve the way that you write or contribute onto GitHub, there are some training sessions available. There's a link there, aka.ms/sharing-is-caring. So please click on that to be able to sign yourself up to the training session. They're really good. It gave me a lot of confidence. And I'd just like to thank all, we'd like to thank all the attendees from last session. So thanks for everyone for coming last month. Okay, right. So on to the main event, maturity in the age of Copilot. So again, please get involved, react, let us know what you're feeling, either via chat. If you'd like to talk, come off mute and come and talk to us, switch on your camera, come off mute, raise your hand. That would be fantastic. And I'm going to hand over to Simon H, if that's okay, because I think you're heavily involved in the cognitive business session, so I think only right that you introduce this topic.
So I was thinking about the impact that Copilot has had within the GitHub space, and Simon Doyle is more qualified to talk about this from a sort of hands-on point of view. I'm interested in the data. I mean, Microsoft do some pretty deep research when they put their mind to it. So I was happy with the p-value, which is a very statistically significant result. I'm thinking when I looked at the impact that Copilot had within some developer tasks, I want to stress that again. These AIs, these Copilots, aren't going to make all activities that we do better, but they have the ability to make some activities a lot better. And obviously Microsoft have cherry-picked the more headliney ones, but this figure of taking a task from 2 hours 41 minutes on average down to less than half of that, I think is fascinating. That's a 227% productivity gain. And I guess that got me thinking, what would it look like to you and your organizations if for quite a few tasks in your working day, your staff could double their output? That's getting literally twice as much done on some things. I think that's huge. Most companies are pretty happy if they can make a 5% improvement. So a doubling is massive. So one of the things that we were thinking about as Microsoft, bit by bit revealed more about Copilot is what does this mean for people who aren't developers but are still doing knowledge-based tasks, and where can we map that into the maturity model, the competencies that we've already done, to see where might we start saying already Copilot can do this, this, and this. It was very interesting getting to this point because we wrote the cognitive business competency before Microsoft launched the Copilot announcements. And then when we went back and watched those and then read the competency, we foreshadowed quite a lot of things. So we're very chuffed about that. So what we're going to do is we're not going to dwell on the cognitive business competency itself. some point we will update that. But right now we want to think about the capabilities which have been announced in Copilot and what could that do if Microsoft come through with it all in terms of a bunch of competencies. Now, Marc, Sharon, Simon and I have picked a competency each and given some thought to what might that mean at each level. But what we want to do to start with is actually get you guys to put in some effort for us. So we've got a couple of Microsoft forms to do some quick surveys, and you'll be able to keep running those throughout this session. And here it goes. The first one, I think, is one that Simon put together, which is
absolutely.
So this one is about which of the competencies do you think, just from what you know right now, do you think might be most impacted? So if you want to click the link, is that clickable? It is clickable. Hey, so you can click the link and open the form, or if you're not able to click the link for some obscure arcane reason, you can do the whole QR code photograph thing. And we're going to give you a minute to go back,
sorry.
go back.
That was my
give
mistake.
You a minute. There we go. No, back one more. Well, it'll get
That's
confusing.
it, right?
Yeah, that's the one. Give you a minute to have a go at putting in some thoughts into that. And then what we're going to do a little bit later on is share the output from this. Oh no, hang on. We've got that slightly wrong. Don't click the link on the bottom left because that takes you straight to the competencies. The link you need is the one that isn't clickable. That's the one. Sorry about that. That's weird.
Or scan the QR code, because everybody here loves QR codes.
And I'm going to see if I can grab that link quickly and drop that into the chat for us.
Going to leave it there for a minute so that everybody can scan it. I'm scanning it. Now I have it on my phone.
Hey,
I've got another response. That's good.
And I'm about to paste the link into chat by the power of OneNote. There we go.
Now we'll move to the second poll, assuming everyone's scanned that one. Simon H., you want to talk about what this one's?
Yeah, just give me one moment. I'm now in full-blown multitasking mode because that link didn't come through properly as a link. I'm just going to try that again. Damn it, still not working. Right, just bear with me. I'm just going to type it in manually so that people don't lose it. That's the.
I will take care of that if you talk about the.
Right. Okay. So the second thing we'd like to do is the competency model is quite big now. There are many competencies, and each of them is subdivided down into their various levels, and it's a big job. So we've had a go at identifying some things that Copilot might do to change, add, or make irrelevant some of the existing characteristics in each model. But we'd like you to give us your thoughts. So in theory, this link, which does work, will take you through to a second form. You can fill it in as many times as you like. And in each case, pick a competency, pick a level if relevant, and then tell us anything that comes to mind about a change in a particular competency that Copilot might need reflecting. And we are going to give you a minute on that. And again, keep doing that all the way through this session as new thoughts come up, because the more ideas we get from everybody, the better we can make this this upgrade that we'll try and do over the summer period.
And we'll leave these forms up and available for a while. We're not going to get rid of them. So if you think of something in the next couple of days or in a week, feel free to come back.
Yeah, I certainly think the second form, that probably does need a bit of mulling over, doesn't it? Can you just sort of have a look through what's already there?
I mean, when I was testing the form that I built for that, I then started getting carried away. Once you get some momentum behind it, you'll keep thinking of new things. So so go with it. Give it as much as you can.
Cool. So we had a thought, didn't we? And we've each got kind of an area which we really, the competencies which we particularly like. But these are the ones we picked. We tried to go for those competencies which we think people kind of might start their journey on too. So we've picked out the cognitive business, of course. I'm a developer really, so customization development was my bag. Simon, he does like to communicate, likes to talk, so he's picked out communication. Marc is all about information architecture. Apparently, he might have mentioned it 1 or 2 times. So management content, and then Sharon has picked search. So we'll go through each of these in turn. So yeah.
I think it's fair to say that we're all extrapolating a bit because we've seen demos, we've seen the marketing material about Copilot. We'll see how it actually plays out. The good thing is for you, Simon D, the GitHub Copilot actually is out there and available. So yes, we know what that looks like. We know what that impact is.
Yeah, that's right. Well, the X is out as well, but yeah, I haven't got access to that as yet. But it's that's pretty cool.
Just tell us what X is for those that haven't sat in on those sessions.
So Copilot or GitHub Copilot is using comments to be able to start getting it to auto-complete your code and generate code. The Copilot X adds some additional functionality, but one of the ones it does, it brings in chat, so you can chat to the Copilot to ask it questions and say, generate me some unit tests around this section of code, or look at this function, how could I make it better? So it's more of a you're sort of almost pair programming with your Copilot. So it's giving you a lot more flexibility. It makes it easier to try things out, and that kind of sits similar to the other Copilots which we've seen with SharePoint Copilot and Word Copilot, where you've got that chat interface around the context of what it is that you're working on. So yeah, that was talked about build. Right. So are we going to have a chat about Copilot and the cognitive business competency?
Well, I was going to not really say too much about this. This just sets the scene. It gives you some thinking about how we're going to approach updating the cognitive business competency. The one thing I did want to do was suggest to people that they should already be thinking about what their AI company policy is going to be. This is one that I acquired from another company that I'm doing some work with, via Leslie actually. So I think that it's a reasonable starting point, but I suggest to people that as we start to enter the world, in fact, we've already got 1 foot firmly in the world of AI-driven cognitive business, we need to make sure that we've reflected that in our policies, and ideally picking up some of the responsible AI concepts which are embedded in this document. So obviously the slide deck will be available later. You can quite happily acquire this content for your own use.
Yeah, that's great. And we've used these levels to try and kind of see how each of individual competencies have been impacted by Copilot. So we're trying to be consistent, aren't we? So yeah.
Yep.
So
let's jump into.
That's the prettiest slide we're going to look at. So obviously you've given it more thought than we have in some of the other areas.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, so yeah, I don't have such a big screen, so apologies. Some of the text is quite small on this one. But if we, talking about Copilot and customization development, this does seem to be the one which we've got the most information about. In terms of overall outcomes, the idea is that people are spending less time on the practice of coding and being able to spend more time on thinking about what they're building, and learning to kind of work with the Copilot, the prompt, to refine the result that they're getting to improve the code that they're building. If we sort of break this down into the different levels, level 100, we're sort of saying that no one's really using Copilot for development. It's not really been thought about. It's interesting, in my organization, I've sort of prompted the developers, you guys starting to think about Copilot? And they're like, no, I don't, I don't really want to don't want to use Copilot because I don't really, it's not really going to be helping me understand the code I'm building. But it's, sort of a bit of an education thing here where we're sort of getting into level 200. there people are starting to experiment, because Copilot really is that next abstraction level. I sort of, when they said that they didn't want to use it because they wouldn't understand what they're building. I'm like, well, you don't program in machine code anymore in an assembly. You were using tools which abstract up so that we can be more productive, and Copilot is going to help us do that. I think what we do need to do is understanding the limitations of Copilot, and at level 200 we probably don't understand what those limitations are. It would be dangerous for us to go, oh, Copilot's written that, brilliant, I'll just copy and paste that into my code base because that'll be fine. That process of reviewing the code and sort of validating that what it's created makes sense, it fits in our understanding, that's something which people at level 200 will start learning. So there are limitations, of course, and it's understanding those limitations. But then we come into level 300. We start having thoughts. We've got some standards being defined about how Copilot's used. Developers can start using Copilot originate functions instead of manage common code. We might have functions being developed using Copilot and being shared internally as well. This is really important, that we're reviewing the code that's being created by Copilot and seen as being essential, which I think is great, because it instills code reviews. We should be doing them anyway, but if by reviewing the code we get better at code reviews, or reviewing the code that Copilot's creating, we get better at code reviews, then that's great. And that idea of pair programming is such a productivity win. When we've used pair programming at our organization, so being able to do pair programming with Copilot to kind of start off with something, get a function that's achieving something, be able to refactor that, and keep iterating till we get it to the point where we're happy and it delivers what we want through that mechanism. That's great. And finally, in the level 300, we'll understand really about what the limitations of Copilot, what it is good at, what it's not good at, and how we can work with it to get the most, to get value out of it. I won't say the most value out of it, but to get value out of it. We move from level 300 to level 400. We're starting to now think about, actually, when we're going to deliver a solution, that we're incorporating how we can use Copilot to speed up our workflow, and so our estimates and our planning starts to incorporate how Copilot is used. I might have mentioned on here before, but one of the great build talks was Scott Hanselman and Marc, can't think of his surname now, talking about how learning to code again with Copilot. And there's this idea of how you start working with AI, where you start trying things out, and then you start trying out prompts and phrases to get what you want, and then you refine those to get a result, and eventually you might end up having a fine-tuned model which gives you the results. But the idea that you're trying these things out, and if we understand what we can get from Copilot, then we can then you incorporate that to improve our estimates and speed up delivery. Also, in level 400, we're going to be measuring the usage, and ideally, we should be recording where it's being used as well, so we can see what impact Copilot is having on those projects where Copilot is being used. And level 500, now we're starting to think, and this is this is something we're just kind of sort of thinking through, is we might start having a Copilot which is very specific to our business, and it's been finely tuned so that it's got company specific domain knowledge, understands our code repository, so it can produce more specific code bases and functions for our organization. And we are starting to use at level 500 using code in our internal repos to build off, to allow Copilot to build those code and those modules, which can then start to be optimized. So we're starting looking at what we're building and optimizing our internal repos with Copilot. And then the last part is that we've got some feedback loops, and we're using those to test and measure and improve those AI models and what's being generated. So at level 500, sort of kind of trying to push the boundaries of where we think the customization development will go with Copilot. Right.
I've got a couple of things I want to add to that, if I may.
Go for it. Yeah.
I've posted a link. The folk behind OpenAI have got some really good courses. I've posted a link to the prompt engineering one. The reason I've chosen that one in particular is there's an article I'm about to publish on the ethics of AI, and my article is actually about there is no ethics in an AI. All of it is done by putting some guardrails, coding what people are allowed to ask, and coding for checking what the AI gives back as results. And so when people are looking at doing customization and development with AI at the center, I think it's important that you look to doing that responsible AI piece. And making sure you do checks on the input and output from the AI, because the AI will give you unacceptable answers in a few cases that you need to filter out because it has no sense of morality.
Yeah,
that's our job. So, but this whole responsible AI thing, that sits with us. AIs can't do it yet. Right, my turn.
I'd say I'm squarely at level 200 with GitHub Copilot. I've tried it out a little bit and just with PowerShell at Todd Clint's suggestion, and I've gotten some results that don't work. I've gotten some results that save me time. For me, though, I'm asking it questions, asking it for things that I don't know how to do. That's my test, and that's a different test than here's my code, make it better. But I'm finding that it can be very helpful. Instead of bingling something, I can ask Copilot and it gives me a very focused answer, right? Sometimes when you're searching for something, it takes quite a bit of time to find that chunk of code that isn't quite the answer and you need to customize. And to me, that's where I am. This looks sort of right. I'm gonna try that out. At least it gives me something, gives me a way to think about the problem differently. So
this is interesting because I've also used it for pulling together things like PowerShell scripts. Now, I can't write PowerShell, so the danger is that I could run a PowerShell script provided to me by an AI, and actually I wouldn't have a very good idea of what it was going to do because I'm not qualified to review that code to see what it's, whether it's right or not. When you run hopefully if you run a piece of code, you'll find out one way or another whether it works or not. The danger is when we start taking it outside of the more objective spaces like development. If we're letting AIs give us stuff and we haven't got people qualified to check that what the stuff is good, we might be putting our businesses at risk for compliance, governance, all that kind of stuff. Right. So just make sure that you've got appropriate review processes around whatever you're using Copilot for.
Well, to me, it's no different than finding some code out there on the web and just running it without figuring out what it means. I mean, we've been telling people for years, don't do that. Some people still do. Here's a script, for example, a PowerShell script that is supposed to do what it says in the blog post. And then you run it and you find out, I just deleted my document library or whatever. It does something different.
Yep. Absolutely.
And so, there's always a responsibility when you're looking at anyone else's code, even the person who's sitting next to you at work, to be sure that it does what it's supposed to do. And I think that's an onus on every developer. It's pair programming in essence, not, do it for me.
And remember, that's the purpose of pair programming, is to make sure that you get both productivity and quality improvements, not just saving a bit of time. So,
well, let's talk about that in the context of communication, shall we?
Why don't we see if we can do that? So, so this is just my first take at it. I'm sure that I'll have more ideas as I go along. On the right of my slide, I've just put down some thoughts on some of the kind of things that Copilot might be able to, or is intended to be able to help with when we come to doing communication. Out to you. You can look at those yourself. The upsides of doing it, I think, is that most organizations, especially those smaller ones without dedicated comms departments, struggle with creating frequent, timely, accurate, engaging content. we kind of go, oh, we really need to get our staff to know about this. We'll throw it out there. And yet, at the same time, I was reading the Work Trend Index article that Microsoft put out. I will just grab a link to that now and stick that in the chat just this morning. And there's a really interesting statistic in that about how much more successful corporations, companies are where they've got an effectively engaged workforce. And some of that engagement comes from the level of communication. So I've put the link in, have a read of it yourself. But I think communication is a really important part of driving the messages and the culture and the goals across an organization. If we do it right by using Copilot, that'll help everybody. And I think the other thing that I worry about a lot with communication is too much of it is as bad as too little. And Copilot will not only be able to look at making sure that the right people get the right messages, but maybe personalizing it for them as well. So making it appropriate to the people, not just lots and lots of blanket messages like we get off Facebook and every other damn channel at the moment. Right, so my levels, as always, level 100 is, yeah, we're just not doing it. And we're in as appalling or as good a place as we are today. As we move up into level 200, I think we'll find that people are using Copilot and maybe other tools as well to draft their messages. It's really quite alluring for doing that because it seems so simple. The issue is, as I mentioned before, if you don't really think about it, you may get, well, scary communication stuff which is inaccurate. If you don't know, there's this concept of temperature in AIs that I only really learned about a couple of weeks ago when we were all over at Dusseldorf. So temperature sort of roughly maps to those three options you see in Bing, where you've got the creative mode, the sort of standard mode, and the precise mode. And if you get your temperature wrong, you're giving the AI license to make stuff up. And sometimes making stuff up is really good. That's what creativity is about. Einstein once said if we knew what we were doing, it wouldn't be research. And so, there's a time for that. But if you need to make sure your stuff is accurate, make sure you get your temperature settings right, and make sure that you've done your review. And we tend to see that stuff appearing at level 300. There will be policies in place at 300 describing how you're going to use these AI tools to drive your communication, what the checking, the quality measures are going to look like. That again, we've wrapped in some responsible AI thinking. And there's some really basic principles. I'll grab those in a minute and just post those into chat about what responsible AI looks like, and making sure that we've embedded those in the way we use AI and in the communications that we push out. And I mentioned the temperature thing to make sure that you've not got unintended errors in the content. Then as we move up to level 400, the advanced stuff is when we start to actively repurpose the content, the messages according to the channel. So if I'm pushing something out on a social media channel, that message might be very short and compact with a different kind of graphical style and writing tone compared with a blog I publish internally or a blog I publish externally. And I think that level 400 will be able to get Copilot to help us rewrite out or repurpose and rewrite our content according to the different target audiences and the different delivery channels that we're doing, and have it source references and associated information and imagery and all that kind of stuff. And then, again, level 500 for us is very speculative at the moment, because right now Microsoft themselves are at about the level 300 stuff with Copilot, but we would like to think that Copilot at some point will be trainable with your house style. So you'll be running Copilot and a bunch of Azure stuff or OpenAI stuff running within Azure, and it will be trained on your in-house content and using your templates and looking at the way you've communicated in the past and making sure that it conforms to that and checks against your company values and philosophies and culture. And that would be very cool. I literally have my company culture business principles up here. So I want to be able to teach my AI that. And that's what I'd like to be able to see at level 500. And as I said, level 500, personalizing messages. So maybe everybody gets their own personal message, not just a generic one. Maybe we can then start asking questions after the item has been published, and Copilot can answer those questions for us rather than just dragging in members of the com team or the exec or whoever it is. And switching from I'll publish it when I like to Copilot looking at when there are communications to be sent, because it has insights into what's going on in the organization, and it will have maybe even some degree of autonomy to say, I think that this is something which is noteworthy. I am going to publish it, or would you like me to publish it? And have a process where we're increasingly allowing our AIs to do some of that autonomous action for us. We have a quick look at all those messages that have been flying through.
We seem to be generating a lot of good conversation in chat, which is excellent. Always
Exactly.
good to see that. Well, we'll take all that and paste it into Copilot and get a summary.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, we should be able to do that.
I think it's great food for thought in the maturity model though as well. To be thinking about some of the topics, which is talking about GitHub Copilot. Is the code that's been written by GitHub Copilot? Who does it belong to? That's where a lot of the discussion seems to be going around, which is really good.
That one's now very clear. I mean, GitHub is more complex, but again, as we start to move this stuff into using an Azure-based repository rather than an open repository, then that concern has already been formally addressed. If it runs in Azure, it's your stuff. Microsoft will have no access to it. So so those are your choices. Use the open source stuff if you don't mind, and use the closed stuff if you want to make sure your IP is protected.
Right. All right. Should we move on to management of content? Oh, do we have a hand up? Yep.
Yeah, folks. So my question might be addressed in the next slide, but I noticed earlier in the summary where we had all that stack of competencies, there wasn't anything there for collaboration. And what we've just been speaking about on the communication slide, there's sort of quite a heavy slant towards corporate comms, message the company wants you to have, as opposed to the one-on-one comms I have with my colleagues in the shape of Teams messages, channel messages, emails, and so forth, that greases the wheels of a collaborative process like getting a proposal ready. So I don't know if there's even capability in Copilot that's going to address collaboration scenarios. I thought I'd just put a question out there, but I'll wait until the next slide is done in case it answers the question.
Well, we do have a collaboration competency in the maturity model. I popped back to this pile of competencies. So we have the competency when we were thinking about what the impact of Copilot might be on the existing competencies. We all chose the green ones just because we wanted to talk about them, and also we thought it was going to be a place where Copilot would have a nearer term impact. If that's right or not, don't know. Yeah. I think individual communication between individuals is likely to be impacted a bit less, just because the way we communicate in chat, for example, in Teams is very on the fly. I think when it comes to more formalized collaboration, it's a fair question, but one that we're not really addressing today.
Yeah, we certainly did discuss collaboration. Should we do that? And then it was like communication or collaboration, and we went with communication. But there's definitely gonna be lots of great uses, and Word Copilot, PowerPoint Copilot. That's going to be great for collaboration. Anyway, so
because I think in those two examples you mentioned, that sort of maybe it addresses the task I'm doing is something I'm kind of doing by myself, and the collaborative element will come in when I ask a colleague to peer review or maybe comment or contribute. And I don't know anything about Copilot being able to do, substitute the collaborative input that a colleague would have given, and now I'm getting the Copilot to do it for me. So maybe when we see that kind of capability evolving, if ever, then that sort of addresses the collaboration competency a bit more directly.
Yeah, I think it might be, that you're using Copilot to do that initial review before you then share it out with, a wider audience.
Yeah.
So you kind of, you may be getting that content, or that content that you're creating and collaborating on. You're collaborating with the Copilot, and then you're then passing that on with the rest of the team to get further input from.
I could see Copilot playing a role in something like a weekly status update. Here are all the things that we've done this week. Throw it into Copilot and have it tell us what happened. That's both a piece of content, but also a collaboration tool, right? We're communicating what we're working on and how we're doing against those tasks. So I haven't seen a demo or anything in that sort of context, but I could see it working. I mean, I think that's where we'd have to be able to train the model using our content as opposed to that external currently the external sort of the world's corpus. And I think it does play into what I wanted, a couple of the points that I wanted to make here about management of content. If you don't mind, may I go along? I just noticed we're running out of time. So I didn't do a very good job on this slide. I got to admit, I've been thinking about it as we've been talking. I think it's reminding me a lot of the discussion we had with IT pros when we were talking about going to the cloud. It's taking away some of the more mundane parts of a process and allowing you to focus on the higher value added parts. So in a management of content perspective, if you're generating, for instance, a policy about, I don't know, bring your own device, you bring your own device policy for the inside of an organization. You could certainly ask Copilot to generate a starting point. You could ask it for some suggestions as to what that policy should include.
I should just take all my meetings outside on my phone.
But then I think you still need to do the work to make it work for your organization. So management of content is in my mind similar to what Simon talked about with communication. We can use it as a tool, as in every other example, but it's a tool that lets us focus on the parts of the content that are more important to our organization and what make us special. So going through the levels, level 100, no one's using Copilot. That one's always an easy one. I think at level 200, we're starting to use Copilot to generate some initial passes at things like that policy, like a status update. Maybe we give it some facts and then ask it to write that into a couple of paragraphs for us. Level 300, we're starting to understand, well, how are we using Copilot? What are the right and wrong ways to use it? I don't think we should be using it to, for example, write an entire policy and then just say, okay, great, I'm done. I think that if that's not a rule in your organization, in your governance about these tools, I think it really ought to be. I think also we'll have to, from a governance perspective, come up with a way to either identify or choose not to identify content that is generated by Copilot as being such. What does it mean if I'm a content creator and I'm generating a lot of my content using an AI tool? Well, it's probably not entirely different than, gee, I don't know how to write this. I'll just stick with the policy idea and just going out and searching and grabbing paragraphs from various things, or grabbing a boilerplate contract, for example, from LegalZoom. There are a lot of sites out there that give you examples, and I think that's what Copilot might be doing for us. But we need to think about, well, when do we need to say that that's what this is within our organization? what types of content, meaning content types, I had to say content type somewhere, does it matter for, for what content types does it matter that we're using some sort of AI, and which ones does it not? I also think at level 300, we'll start to see people generating summaries of what's in a document to use as sort of abstracts, right? Oftentimes, as we're building intranets, for example, there might be a document-based version of something that's important, of a certain type of content. But we might want to have an abstract, a short version of that people can skim and see if this is the document they're actually looking for. I could see that sort of being done on an ad hoc basis at level 300. I think on level 400, we might start to see that we're using a programmatic way to say, okay, let's reason over everything in this particular document library and generate those abstracts or summaries. Let's make sure that we have a flow every time somebody uploads something that analyzes that content and makes some sort of addition or change to it. And then I think at level 500, maybe it's level 400, but somewhere in there, we want to make sure that we're training Copilot with our organizational standards for content. Whenever we ask Copilot something in Bing today, which is really where it's available for most of us if we can access it, or some variant of it, the ChatGPT kind of thing. Whenever we ask it for something, it's drawing on that outside corpus. It's not our content, and our content is likely to have some quirks and differences because it's our content. So we want to make sure that the Copilot is trained somehow with our organizational standards on an ongoing basis, because our organizational standards would change. So maybe it understands templates that we have defined for content. If the policy looks like this, then Copilot knows to respond to any prompts in this framework. It understands the templates, it understands the metadata we need, and it understands the sort of tone that we tend to use for that particular content type, and it gives us results that are like that. And I think, again, speaking of content types over and over and over again now, I think that some content types are more likely to be sort of Copilot enabled and others are not. Some things have to be really created from whole cloth by a human being, and some things can be somewhat synthesized from other content that exists within our organization. But in all these cases, I really think we're focusing on, how can we use the tool to let people do the higher value added stuff that they do, as opposed to the more rote stuff. I think that's where the value is going to be. And Sharon, I've left you an entire couple of minutes.
That's okay. That's okay. I mean, it's kind of interesting because we've been, same thing, like as we've been going through this and talking about different things. And I picked search to talk about just because I think search is going to be, from a everyday person perspective, I think it's going to be one of the most impactful. And at the end of the day, the reason is because, and I put these top two things as my kind of outcomes. I think first and foremost, people will be more comfortable searching using natural language, because at the end of the day, any age person with any tech background, with any, language skills can simply say, I'm looking for this thing. I want to do this thing. I need this information. And the more we can get to natural language processing for search, the more people feel comfortable using search, and the more they get more accurate and relevant results out of it. Because I know, specifically, I mean, I've for years, like, people come to me and go, hey, can you help me find this thing? Because I'm good at navigating the search, ecosystem, and I know how to word things and how to phrase things to know what I'm looking for to get the right results back. In addition to that, I think that there's a lot of randomness that happens. And so this first level, I think, isn't that they aren't using it, but I think at a level 100, it's almost a little bit more havoc if they are using it, but they don't really know what to look for and they don't really know what to do. And so they're finding random things. And when they can't find what they want, or it doesn't give them something in the way that they need it, they then go back and use other things. So it's actually doubling their work, tripling their work, maybe giving them the wrong responses or incorrect or inaccurate information. And so it's actually causing more damage than it is doing good. So it's kind of like this, they're creating little fires everywhere. By the time you get up to 200, now we're starting to be like, okay, maybe we're figuring this out. We've got a few basic scripts we can use. Maybe we've got, our heads around what we're doing. But we don't know what or why we're doing it, right? We just know that it works. And so it gives us what we want. So we're using this kind of basic things that we've learned. But maybe we're randomly checking the results we're getting, but we're not really holding it to any standard. And, Simon and I had a conversation the other day about like getting information of it, but it being inaccurate and how that can be damaging. And as you go to these higher levels, I think what ends up happening in any higher mature organization is that you're starting to define those standards. You're starting to audit. You're starting to figure things out. By the time you get up to that 500, you're starting to be more innovative and saying, how can this do things for us that maybe we couldn't do for ourselves before, or maybe that are going to set us apart at a business of a differentiator level by using this technology. I know it's kind of, I'll summarize mine, but I think search is going to be a big deal for people when they can get onto things, say what they want, and ultimately maybe get 1 or 2 very accurate results back.
Yeah, I mean, even just having a search engine 20 years ago would have seemed miraculous to us, right? Maybe 25 years ago. I don't know. Time flies when you're having fun, and this is an evolution of search, right? We've had natural language types of search back in Lotus 1-2-3. They tried. Remember that HAL thing? Anybody remember HAL? It worked okay-ish. It did things, but now we're way beyond that. So next steps. Who wants to talk about that? One of you Simons wrote this one.
Yeah, it's probably down to me again. We'll keep it quick because we're at time. Just some things to ponder. I mean, this pace of change is crazy. In 40 odd years of being in this techish kind of industry, I have never seen something moving as fast as the AI world. So it'll change by this time next week. But in the meantime, if you've got any more ideas of things that we should be feeding into the competencies, please add them to that second form. And we'll do something with it. And if you've got the time, have a play with Bing Chat, because that's ChatGPT with access to yesterday's data, and with Designer, which is DALL-E, but for people who want to do marketing comms. Have a play in the AI playground, because that's fun. And then, as I've said, think about your AI policy. That image on the right, that was generated by Designer. I couldn't do that myself. It took 2 minutes. It would have taken 1, but I didn't like the first answer.
Yeah,
and think about your prompts.
Yeah, and I think that's it. That's what the OpenAI playground is great for, learning that prompt and getting familiar with these tools. It's fantastic.
All right, we are over time. If you've attended our calls before, you know all of these links. You can get to the videos from these calls and the slide decks. Those are probably the 2 most frequently used links there. Our next call will be on September 19th. We are taking the next couple months off. I don't have the topic here. It will either be accessibility or data and analytics. We've got a couple conversations going on around both of those things. Thank you all for joining, and we hope to see you in September. Please fill out the forms over and over again with your thoughts as you think of them. Bye-bye.
Take care. Thanks.
Thanks, everybody.
Have a good summer.
Bye, guys.
Thank you.